What's up, everybody? We're going live on Instagram right now. Welcome. Let me move this over a little bit. Let's move this over. Got to get the lighting and everything right. Let's wait for everybody to come in. Welcome, everybody. How you guys doing? Happy Moon Day. How's everybody feeling today? Let's wait for everybody to come in. We have some things to talk about today when it comes to the stars. Welcome. Hey, I'm just waving at everybody coming in. Really excited to talk about the astrology of this week. We are moving through our first eclipse. We have our Pisces lunar eclipse that we had yesterday. Who woke up just feeling like extremely burnt out, exhausted, tired. Also, this is going to be posted to YouTube afterwards. So if you guys want to watch the playback, you can't stay, and you prefer to watch it on YouTube, you'll be able to do that, okay? Someone said, I'm exhausted on all levels, a lot going on, many endings, major ones. Yes, yes. You got sick. Yep, that's been a thing. People getting sick, especially if you're a mutable sign, you got a mutable sun, moon, or rising, or if you have like Pisces, Virgo, in the sixth house, 10th house, which would be what? Aries rising, Libra rising, people getting sick. They got Pisces, Virgo in the sixth house, 12th house access. Woke up ready to train and had to postpone because of knee pain. Oh, your knees. That's Saturn things. The knees are ruled by Saturn. So, we're moving through our lunar eclipse in Pisces this week. This is our first week. So it's going to be a 2 week cycle that we're dealing with the lunar eclipse in Pisces. And then come the 21st, we have our solar eclipse in Virgo that's going to be opposing Saturn. Pisces in my 11th house, South Node. Um, so that means you are a what? You're a Taurus rising? Pisces in the 11th house. I think that's Taurus rising, right? Yeah. So this week, right, we're going to see a lot of eclipse activities or a lot of eclipse energy manifesting this week. So, it really depends on how you're getting hit by the eclipse. If you're getting hit by like the North Node moon side of the eclipse, like if you have Pisces in your chart, like myself, Pisces rising, you're probably going to feel a boost of energy. You're going to feel an increase of energy. You're probably going to feel very excited. Like this morning, I woke up like at 6:30. And I woke up and I was like, boop, why am I up this early? There's no reason why I should be up at 6:30. But then I was like, oh, we just had a lunar eclipse and the North Node and the moon are going through my rising sign because I'm Pisces rising. So if you're on the Pisces side of the eclipse energy, if you have Pisces placements, you're feeling an increase of energy. You're probably feeling excited, really expansive, really hopeful. Maybe there's an intensity or an expansion or an increase of emotion, whatever emotion, raw emotion that could be. So if you already were going into this eclipse feeling grief, you're going to feel more grief. If you already were feeling kind of like sad or lonely going into this eclipse, you're probably going to feel more sad or more lonely. If you're going into this eclipse with like feeling joyous and excited and just like ready for life, you're going to feel an increase of that energy, right? So, whatever, Pisces is a water sign. Pisces, is a very emotional sign. Water signs have a lot to do with our emotion, our emotional experience. And so, there's an amplification with the lunar eclipse in Pisces of our emotions. And we're wrapping up the moon in Pisces today. So, today the moon is at the last degrees of Pisces, I believe. I think it's actually conjoined Saturn. So, if you are feeling like tired, oh, the moon just went into Aries, like just went into Aries. The moon's at 0 degrees Aries. But the moon is separating from Saturn today, right? So the moon was at 15 degrees Pisces yesterday for our eclipse. And actually, the eclipse happened around 11 a.m., 11:30 a.m. Pacific time. Um, if you are here in the States or if you're on the West Coast. But yeah, so the moon is leaving Pisces. It's done going through Pisces. Now it's going to be in Aries today, or I'm sorry, yeah, today, tomorrow, and then Wednesday. And we'll talk about that when we talk about the transits of like with the moon going through the signs for the week, okay? But today with the moon Saturn today, and I want to talk about actually before we dive into like, the transits of the moon going through the signs through the week. I want to talk about like the lunar eclipse in Pisces a little bit deeper. There were some things that I felt like when we did the lunar eclipse in Pisces live, there were some things I felt like I might have missed. one of the big downloads that I got around this lunar eclipse in Pisces, and it's like a overall eclipse season theme. We're gonna really definitely see it with the solar eclipse in Virgo coming up on the 21st. That's opposing Saturn. With Saturn retrograding back into Pisces, and Saturn's at 29 degrees Pisces right now, and the moon is actually separating from Saturn today. There's a little bit of like a revisitation to our lessons of the last like 2.5 years. As Saturn transited Pisces, there's been transiting Pisces like since 2023. So with this eclipse, there's going to be a few things that you may see. Okay, there may be an experience where you need to revisit some kind of karmic lessons or some kind of karmic testing around structure, around responsibility, around boundaries, around expectations, around discipline, around self-control, around abstinence. These are all Saturn things, by the way. Everything that I just mentioned right now, those are all significations of Saturn. There may be something with this eclipse or during this eclipse season that you kind of have to revisit associated with what Saturn was trying to teach you or has been trying to teach you as he's been going through Aries or Pisces over the last 2.5 years since 2023, right? And it may be a little bit of a reality check, or it may be really difficult, or you might have to confront something that is like heavy or burdensome, or that is sad, or that is going to require you to like put in some work in some type of way, okay? And it could get revealed to you, like this eclipse cycle could reveal this to you, could show this to you. And I think it's something we need to be very aware of because our Saturn and Pisces work isn't done yet. And the stars of the show, right? The stars of this eclipse cycle are the mutable signs, especially Pisces and Virgo, and then Gemini and Sagittarius. So the mutable signs, Saturn going back into Pisces, especially if you have mutable placements, if you have a mutable sign as your big three, there's something around needing to be more structured, needing to be more disciplined, or needing to figure out what your like career direction is, or what it is that you want to do, or how it is that you want to be of service to the world, right? One of the downloads I got with the South Node, Sun, Mercury, and Virgo is we're moving away from work that's just like out of survival or out of struggle. So it's like, oh, I gotta have this job because I need to make ends meet. And it's like there's no passion, there's no joy, there's no upward mobility in the job. You're just doing it because it's something you know how to do, or something you fell into, or something that, out of desperation or out of necessity, you need to like do. And that's fine. You could do that. You could do the South Node, Mercury, Sun and Virgo stuff. But we're moving towards North Node in Pisces, Saturn retrograde in Pisces, right? We're moving towards a vision, a dream, a life that is able to expand or grow, or we're reaching for opportunity. We're reaching for a new something, right? And we need to be very aware of how we can tweak our day-to-day Virgo, South Node, Mercury, Sun, and Virgo, to pivot ourselves in the direction of those goals and those dreams and those ambitions. So there's something that we're leaving behind, South Node, Sun, Mercury, and Virgo, associated with our habits, associated with a job, associated with, our relationships, possibly, or friendships, or something that we need to leave behind in order for us to move in a new direction and to shift ourselves in the way that we're supposed to go, or the way that we desire to go, right? The direction of our goals, our dreams, our ambitions, and things like this. So it's something that we need to be very aware of during this eclipse cycle because, Mercury this week, Mercury's going to cross the sun and Mercury's going to go across the South Node. So Mercury, right? He's going to catch up to the sun. I think we actually do have a Sun Mercury Cazimi this week. Let me take a look and see. I do believe it's on. Yeah, we do. Yeah, we do. It's on Saturday. Yeah, we have a Sun Mercury Cazimi on Saturday, on the 13th. So Sun Mercury, they're going to Cazimi at 21 degrees of Virgo, okay? And they're going to both pass the South Node. They're going to both cross the South Node this week because the South Node's sitting at 18. So, we start off this week, like today, we have the Sun at 16 degrees, Virgo, we have Mercury at 12. Well, they catch up to each other and they meet at 21 degrees on Saturday, and they're going to pass the South Node. They're going to cross the South Node. So, I want you guys to think about like Sun Mercury crossing the South Node is like we're in a spaceship in space, and we have to like speed by the black hole. Because that's what the South Node is. The South Node is like black hole energy. It takes, it drains, it exhausts. It's like the cosmic funnel of energy that comes out. You guys always, and for those of you who've been following me for a long time, I use like the black hole as a metaphor of the South Node, or as like a cosmic funnel of energy being released or being purged or being taken, right? It's like the South Node has a lot to do with exhaustion. It has a lot to do with, a draining or a wasting away of energy, right? So with the Sun and Mercury crossing the South Node this week, it's kind of like we're in this spaceship and we need to zoom by this this black hole, but the black hole is probably going to take something and suck us in anyways. We're going to have to like go into the funnel and then get spit out again, right? And it could be around Sun Mercury South Node Sun Mercury thing. So this could be a part of ourselves that we need to leave behind. The Sun, something with our father, something with our ego, something with with leadership, with a boss. We can have an authority figure, leave a job, or we can have leadership step down in some type of way, or we can see the ousting of leaders. Actually, today I was just looking that they voted in France to go ahead and oust the fourth prime minister, I think. So the president is going to have to choose, I think, the fifth prime minister. So France right now is kind of like in political shambles because they just voted out a a prime minister. And so what we see, right, with Sun South Node together this week, what we may see is like a fall of leaders, a fall of celebrities. That's a general eclipse thing, but we may see it very literally or very obviously going into the weekend, or as this week passes by, as the Sun transits the South Node. So the Sun's actually going to hit the South Node exactly. I'll tell you guys when on Wednesday. So the Sun and the South Node meet at 18 degrees Virgo on Wednesday, September 10th. And then Mercury goes across the South Node this week. On Friday, September 12th, Mercury and the South Node meet. And then we have a Sun Mercury Cazimi on the 13th. And what that means is that the Sun and the Mercury are going to come together, and then Mercury's going to pull ahead of the Sun, right? So we have this like little dance happening with like Sun, Mercury, and the South Node this week, and I think there's going to be a lot of revelation, a lot of epiphany, a lot of but there's also going to be like kind of like loss or kind of like deprivation, or we may feel energetically drained, or we may realize something, especially on the Kazemi on Saturday. A lot of times when Sun and Mercury come together, so the Sun and Mercury have a lot to do with like the light of consciousness, right? The Sun is the soul, but the Sun is also the illumination of self. It's the awareness of self. The Sun grants us an ego. The Sun is like, here, let me give you a little bit of my energy so you can be aware of yourself. So you can be self-aware and you could think of yourself as apart from everything else in the universe, right? Like, we think of ourselves like I'm Louie and you have your name. And so that concept of self, that awareness of self is the Sun, right? Mercury is the thinking processes around the ego and around the identity, around the conception of self. So that's what Sun and Mercury have a lot in common. They have a lot to do with consciousness, awareness, right? But when Sun Mercury pulled come together for a Kazemi on Saturday, and then when Mercury pulls ahead, we see a lot of shifts of decision making or choices. So, if you've been kind of ruminating on like a decision or a choice, if you've been waiting for information to come in to give you clarity around what decision or choice you need to make around a particular matter. What I would do this week is I would set an intention and I would be like, hey, Mercury, can you give me some instruction or can you give me some insight or can you give me some information to give me clarity on Saturday so that on Saturday, as the Sun and Mercury come together, I can have this moment of clarity, I can have this moment of revelation, and I can like make a intentional, fully informed choice or decision, right? So what we may see with the Sun and Mercury Kazemi this Saturday, what you may find is like if there's been something that you've been kind of sitting on or going back and forth with, you may get clarity, you may get insight, or you may even just like be ready or be prepared to make the choice or make the decision, right? One of the things that I firmly believe is all the planets are aware, and we build a relationship. If we build a relationship with the planets, they will support us and they will help us, right? And the ancients figured this out a long time ago. There's a reason why the Romans were worshiping the planets. There's a reason why the Mesopotamians were worshiping the planets. There's a reason why the Egyptians were worshiping the planets and they came up with names for all the planets or they associated gods with the planets. It's because, right, even in the Hindu Vedic religion, right? It's because they work with the planets, right? And I believe we should too. I think we should build a relationship with the planets and, start addressing them as if they're aware and they have intention and they have goals for us because they do. And in my opinion, that's my belief, right? But yeah, so, making a little bit of a petition to Mercury, asking Mercury if he can give you some like clarity or some insight or something would be really, really helpful this week, especially if there's like a pending choice or a pending decision that you're like waiting for or something like this. Okay. Another thing that we're going to see this week is probably big announcements around jobs getting lost. So there can be announcements around layoffs, or there could be announcements around, businesses closing or even businesses merging in some type of way with the Sun Mercury coming together. Because, Virgo is a sign of jobs, a sign of work, right? And the South Node is taking away jobs. The South Node is pulling away is changing our day-to-day routine in a way that's very uncomfortable for a lot of people. It feels like a very unsafe period, but we need to like understand that this is supposed to happen. This is part of this cosmic processing that's happening where the evolution of our reality and the evolution of like society is happening. And we're in the throes of it. And it's very uncomfortable because many of us have never gone through anything like this before, experienced anything like this before. So it's new to us. But we need to lean in. We need to lean in. And yeah. So with Saturn, like I was saying, what brought me here was the North Node being in Pisces and Saturn retrograding back into Pisces. We should be kind of like working with Saturn and we should be asking Saturn and we should be paying attention to, what Saturn and Pisces has meant for us. Because what we're going to start to see is certain Saturn and Pisces narratives start to come to a close. And there may be some kind of grand finale associated with something in our life, especially if you're a mutable sign, especially if you're someone that has Saturn in a mutable sign. If you've been going through a Saturn transit, like for instance, if you have Saturn in Pisces, Sag, Virgo, or Gemini, you've been going through a Saturn transit. You've been going through a Saturn return, a Saturn opposition, a Saturn square, right? So you want to pay attention to kind of like what kind of narratives or what kind of stories are coming to a close, because there can be some kind of grand finale or some like grand release, right? One of the things we got to remember about the sign of Pisces is it is the last sign of the zodiac. And in Pisces is the ending. And I think the transition from Pisces to Aries is probably one of the most uncomfortable and probably one of the most intense or one of the most dramatic, because Pisces is the 12th sign of the zodiac and Aries is the first, right? So we kind of we go along that cycle, we go along the wheel when it comes to, the first sign to the 12th sign. But I feel Pisces to Aries is probably one of the most intense and one of the most dramatic transitions or changes that we make, right? Because those signs are so different and just how extremely different they are, it's very poignant. And so I feel like many of us are finding ourselves in this in-between space where we feel like there's going to be some kind of dramatic shift or change, but we have to understand it's like not quite yet. One of the things I wanted to talk about today before we get into the weekly transits is I also wanted to talk about Uranus going retrograde in combination, right, with the eclipse that we had. So we had our eclipse right as Uranus stationed to go backwards. And Uranus is stationing to go retrograde at 1 degree of Gemini. He's going to go back into Taurus, actually. So, we're not done with Uranus in Taurus and Saturn in Pisces yet. We still have Uranus and Saturn, going backwards. So what's interesting about Uranus going retrograde, though, during eclipse season is what we may find with that Uranian and Gemini energy and Uranus go back into Taurus. There's some kind of, we want to free ourselves or liberate ourselves from something, or there's some kind of something that we get pulled back to that we get reminded to around what Uranus and Taurus was about for us. And this could be about financial instability, especially if you have fixed sign placements and you have anything at the end of the fixed signs, Taurus, Scorpio, Aquarius, or Leo, or even if you have anything right at the very end of like a fixed sign in the beginning of like a mutable sign, that Uranus is going to come back and possibly aspect you, fixed signs, with an opposition, a conjunction, or square. So I think it's something that we want to be aware of with this Uranus going retrograde. But I think the symbolism behind the Uranus retrograde is that we are in a period where we are trying to radically evolve and radically change. And there's like a lot of quick, fast, change that's happening. And how are we going to embrace that change? How are we going to be a part of that change? And what does that change look like for us, right? Because we can't fight it, you know? Society and change, it's like happening. It's like the planets are indicating it as well, right? As a lot of the big ones are going to new signs. So it's kind of like we have to, what do we want the change to look like? How do we want to be supported by Uranus? And okay, so Uranus he goes direct at the very end of January going into February. So Uranus is gonna be in Taurus for quite a while. He's gonna be retrograding until the end of January of 2026. And then he's not gonna go back into Gemini into where he's gonna like stay for the next 7 years. He's not gonna go back into Gemini until May, really, until end of April, May of next year. So we're not really done with Uranus and Taurus yet. And I think Uranus going back into Taurus is going to kind of put the finishing touches on, cryptocurrency, how money and finances are changing, how we get paid is changing in some type of way. So we might start to see some policy introduced associated with universal income, or what we might start to see is some legislation either by the state or by the government, especially if you're here in the States, getting passed that kind of like is paying people in some type of way. It's like, we're moving toward like they're gonna come up with a different form of like unemployment or something, where they're gonna like double down on it. I don't know. There's gonna be something with money and finances though that kind of evolves or shifts or changes when that continues to evolve, right? With Uranus going back into Taurus. Uranus and Taurus gave us cryptocurrency, right? In a lot of ways, or it magnified cryptocurrency. Like Uranus and Taurus has been changing our food. Taurus has been changing our value systems over the last 7 years. Uranus and Taurus has been changing the way the world is kind of like structured financially, right? And we're going to continue to see that. We're going to see some kind of like finishing touches, or we're going to see some maybe big governments adopting new financial services, or administering money or saving money or dealing with money in some like new type of way with Uranus going back into Taurus. But I will say, Uranus and Taurus in generally has been about collective financial instability. Uranus and Taurus has been about like, okay, the market's extremely high one day and the market's extremely low the next. And it's like the instability of money and finances. So we're going to be a little reminded of that. We're going to feel some echoes of that with Uranus going back into Taurus. But if you do have, like I was saying, if you have anything at fixed signs, the last degrees of fixed signs, you definitely want to pay attention to Uranus going back to hit you, okay? Because Uranus, if it is hitting you, and then also, so there's some folks that have actually started the Uranus opposition. So I have a few clients who actually have an early degree Uranus in Sag at like 1 or 2 degrees. And they've started their Uranus opposition. So Uranus going to just dipping his toes into Gemini and opposing them is already showing up in their life. It's crazy because, many of them, they're going through the Uranus opposition and they're already dealing with something. They're already going through something around like some kind of radical shift or change. It could be a job loss. It could be, wanting to, divorce someone or wanting to have a baby. It's showing up in a lot of different ways, or even a dramatic change in like career. A lot of times during people's Uranus opposition between the ages of 38 to 44, they'll just be like, oh, I'm done with this job. It's time for me to do this, this whole new thing. And they just like do a total 180 in their life in some type of way, right? It's kind of like our midlife crisis transit. It's one of the transits that I call our midlife crisis transit, right? So, yeah. So, and those of you that do have, the Uranus and Sagittarius, like myself, I'm also a Uranus and Sag person. Um, we just got a little bit of a preview. This is like we're okay, this is like we're in the previews right now. This is like preview season. Like we're just kind of like, getting a little taste or a little sample. It's like we're in the movie theater watching the previews, of what's to come like in the next like, 10 years, 20 years. But it's not, but we're still in the previews yet. The movie hasn't started yet. Okay. The movie hasn't started yet. So just keep that in mind. All right. But yeah, so I wanted to talk about Uranus. But so what I wanted to also kind of speak upon though is like Uranus shifting directions during this eclipse season could also manifest as us deciding to go in a different direction, or us deciding that we want to radically change something. We want to dramatically change something. You should take a look at what houses you have it in. You were, you know, you're where you have where Uranus has been transiting over the last 7 years. Take a look at where you have Taurus, because Uranus is going back in there to like finish his work or free something or emancipate something from that house, you know. He's going back there to like, stimulate it again energetically. But symbolically though, I do think that the Uranus going retrograde right at the beginning of our eclipse season, or right when the first eclipse hits, it's symbolic of wanting to suddenly shift or change the direction that we're going in. So if you feel called to be like, oh, I've been, going left and I now want to go right. If you feel called to do that during this eclipse energy, it's probably due to the combination of the Uranus retrograde as well in some type of way. Okay. So, all right, let me go back to the current moment. All right. So Uranus retrograde, I wanted to make sure that we talked about that. One thing that I really love about this week is I do believe we have Venus and Mars coming into a sextile. I think so. Let me just double check. Hold on. I think we have Venus and Mars coming. They do, yeah, on on they're within they're within 1 degree on Saturday, and then on Sunday, September 14th, they are both at 24, sextiling each other. So I like Venus and Leo, Mars and Libra. I've been liking the Venus and Leo and the Mars and Libra. The Venus and Leo is like, I like you, I want you, I gotta have you, like you're not giving me enough attention. Look at me, look how pretty I am, like look at all this gold I'm wearing. Like, Venus and Leo has been really breathing life romantically, right, into people's lives. And also, one of the things I was talking about with Venus and Leo, when Venus first went into Leo, these like big, proud declarations of like love, like I love you, like let's celebrate our love, like let's get married, right? Like it's so cool that we've been seeing so many people getting married while Venus has been in Leo, you know? And we've been seeing a lot of public, visible marriages, like a lot of marriages, like in the public eye, like Taylor Swift got married, right? Or she got engaged or whatever. And that's the Venus and Leo. That's the Venus and Leo going to work, right? Venus in when she's in Leo, she's very expressive, she's very warm, she's very affectionate, she's very bold, she's very courageous, she's very brave when it comes to love. So as Venus and Mars come into this beautiful sextile, what we might see is some romance going into this weekend. We might see some, I like you and I want you. We could do this the easy way or the hard way. Someone said, yes, I made a drastic change and decided to go back to school. Now I'm halfway through my BA in special education. Oh, I love that for you. Congratulations. That's awesome. Yeah, I love that for you. That's amazing. I love that. Yeah. Whatever you feel called to do right now, if you feel called to like, especially like around expanding your skill sets or like educating yourself, or if you feel called to like going back to school, or you want to get into like some kind of class or get a coach or something, like listen to that, respond to that right now, because these eclipses, especially with the north node in a Pisces, in a Jupiter ruled sign, these eclipses are helping us align with the vision and the dream. There's like we're desiring more, right? Many of us, we desire more all the time, but right now it's like this desire for more, it seems more realistic, or it seems more attainable. And I think that's one of the things, like when society is going through like big changes, when things are very unstable and things are very like unstructured and things are like very chaotic, that expands the amount of potential and opportunity. Like, there's certain people that thrive in periods of chaos and when things are like, dim and things are very unstructured and things are very like just wild. Creative people thrive in that energy. Musicians thrive in that energy. Artists thrive in that energy. Like mutable people, us, like Pisces, Virgo, Gemini, Sag, we thrive in chaos. Like and like I really do feel like we need to get comfortable with things not being structured or things being, things moving fast or things being a little like chaotic. We just need to get comfortable with that. That's exciting. I think that's fun. I think that allows, room for new, like it's like a new reality to be born. It's like we don't have to be working these 9 to 5s all the fucking time. We don't have to spend, 60, 70% of our life working. Like, what's the point? What are we doing? There's a recalibration that's happening, and that's what the South Node and the Sun and Mercury and Virgo want to remind us during this eclipse season, especially Sun South Node. There's like, we can't just be going through our day to day. We can't be engaging in work that's meaningless. That lacks passion, that lacks intention, just working for money. Like like these new generations, like the millennials and the Gen X's and stuff, and Gen Z, they don't want to just work for money. They don't want to live life in an empty, shallow way. They want the why, they want the purpose, they want the meaning, right? And we're looking to the adults, so we're looking to the previous generation to give us clarity around that. And they can't, because why? All of them sold their soul to for the dollar. You know what I mean? Like Pluto and Virgo, Pluto and Cancer, Pluto and Leo generation, right? So we need to accept that, times are changing, the jobs are leaving, and it's a time for fantasy and imagination and opportunity. And the North Node in Pisces, ruled by an exalted Jupiter Cancer, is like dream big, right? Dream big, take a risk, take a chance, take a leap of faith, trust in the divine, trust in the universe. So yeah, anyways, let me get off my. I've gotten better at the preaching. I've gotten so much better. Like before I like start pulling up scripture, I catch myself. But yeah, let's get back to the Venus, sextile Mars. The Venus and Leo sextile Mars and Libra. Libra and Leo are like the lion and the lioness. I always think of Libra as like Nala from the Lion King, and I think of Leo as like Simba, right? Because Libra is like that elegant beauty and that balance, and Libra is such a lioness sign, you know? And Leo is the king. Leo is, the lion is. So I always think of Libra and Leo as this beautiful combination. And we may see that right now, especially going into this weekend when Mars and Venus sextile each other. Because they're loosely in a sextile, but it goes exact on Sunday, September 14th. There may be some like romance that's budding in your life, or there may be somebody that you meet, or there could even be a current relationship that you're already in that's becoming more intimate, that's becoming more deep in some type of way, right? Or someone could even vocalize or express the fact that they want to take you out on a date, that they really like you, that they really admire you. You may get a compliment and be like, oh my God, you're so beautiful, you're so gorgeous, I want you, I like you, let's make this happen, right? With that Venus and Leo, Mars and Libra. These are very flirty signs. Leo and Libra, come on now. Those are very flirty signs. And when Venus and Mars are in a sextile, listen to the word. Listen to the word sextile, right? 60-degree relationship. Sextiles are ruled by what planet? They're ruled by Venus. They're a very positive aspect, right? Trines are ruled by Jupiter and sextiles are ruled by Venus. So this is really good for like marketing, promotion, advertising. This is good for creativity, the Venus sextile Mars. This is also good for kind of like making a proclamation, like I would say like asserting your creativity or asserting your confidence or putting your creative works on display or even putting a relationship on display. Maybe you've been dating someone and you like want to like publicly disclose it, or you want to make it known, or maybe you want to introduce them to your family or introduce them to your kids or something. I think this would be um the Venus Mars thing. It could happen. I don't It's eclipse season though, so be careful with casting too many stones or with creating too many waves. Okay, it's eclipse season. All right, so the things are intensified or amplified right now. Things feel a little bit more dramatic right now. But yeah, that Venus sextile Mars is like good for beauty and art, especially that it's Venus and Mars in Leo and Libra, which is really good. What we might also see though is like some kind of So another thing that's really cool about the Venus Mars sextile that's happens on Sunday is, guess what? They are both aspecting Chiron in Aries. So we have Venus trine Chiron. So we're going to have this Venus Chiron trine all next week, which is going to be incredibly healing for relationships. And but we also have Mars opposite Chiron, moving into an opposition with Chiron going into next week. But we're going to start to feel it this weekend. This like Mars Chiron opposition and this Venus, trine Chiron. So what does Chiron and Aries tell us about, Chiron and Aries aspecting Venus and Mars? What does that tell us? That tells us that there's potential for extreme healing in relationships. That maybe, but the thing is though, with Mars and Libra opposite Chiron and Aries, we could feel like irritable or angry or frustrated about some kind of unfairness or injustice or imbalance in a relationship that pushes us to go ahead and assert ourselves or pushes us to address something in the realm of relationships with the Mars Chiron opposition, Mars and Libra opposite Chiron and Aries. So if there's something that's hurting in the relationship, if there's something that you're wounded by, if there's something that's been kind of sitting in your heart and you need to express it or you need to let it out, right? This might be that trigger point this weekend, like, especially when Mars goes to, it's probably going to be this weekend going into next week, but Mars, he's going to hit 26 degrees of Libra, directly opposing Chiron at 26 degrees of Aries on Tuesday, September 16th. So, that Mars Chiron opposition can be a little tense. It can be a little emotionally triggering when it comes to like relationships. Okay, and things like, we can feel angry, irritable, or there could be anger that we've been holding on to, or like inner conflict that we've been holding on to about a situation, and we feel like we got to release it or let it out. And this is not just romantic relationships. This could also be with a business partnership. It could be a friendship. This can be with like a family member. You feel like you need to get something off your chest. You need to call them out on something because Mars and Libra is trying to, this Mars Venus sextile is trying to bring harmony and balance back into relationships in some type of way. Also, Venus, sextile Mars, that could also be about the stimulation of passion or excitement in relationships, right? That could also be you meeting somebody. Um, I'm just thinking of I'm thinking of Venus because Venus is moving faster. I'm thinking of Venus coming in to like, sextile Mars, and I'm thinking about like that kind of sextile energy bringing an opportunity where we can like socially engage with someone new or meet someone new. This doesn't have to be about a romantic thing either. This could be about friendships and things like that as well. I think people are meeting a lot of like karmically aligned friends or like soul groups right now as well. I think that's a big theme right now. So we also want to pay attention to who is coming in right now. Who are the new people coming into our life, right? Who are the new groups we're being called to join, or maybe there's like a community thing, or maybe there's like a certain meeting that happens on Saturdays or Sundays. You've been thinking about going to that. Well, listen to that, honor that, okay? Go meet those people. Because I'm gonna tell you one thing, and this is one of the things I cannot express this enough. All right, with Pluto and Aquarius, Uranus and Gemini, and with Pluto and Aquarius and Uranus and Gemini, it's not going to be about what you know, it's going to be about who you know. A lot of success that is like a lot of our success, a lot of the way that we are going to, you know, build success in the future, like that is now, the future that is hitting us now, but the future that is being born is going to be around networking and community building. And it's like who you know, and like integrity and like what is it? Your reputation, referrals from people, are going to be more of a thing. It's going to be more prevalent, more important. I think that's one of the other really interesting things about social media is like how social media, it actually makes it easier to hold people accountable. Like this whole culture of like canceling somebody, it's like if you record someone being rude to the waiter, right? And then all of a sudden it gets posted on social media and it's everywhere, your whole career could like crash down in shambles because in a moment you were rude to a waiter, right? So there's also a certain level of social accountability and social responsibility that's kind of like we're moving into, and that social media kind of makes everything so obvious. It puts everything out, right? So it makes everything not so obvious, but it puts us on display in a very interesting way, right? Someone said, all right, Let's see what people are saying. Yeah, lots of people getting married too. Yeah, that's a Jupiter in Cancer. A lot of people getting married. North Node, right? North Node in Pisces is trining Jupiter in Cancer right now. So we have the North Node at 19, and we have Jupiter at 19. So that fifth house is fun, romance, celebration, love, right? That's like it's going to be a big theme, especially this week and next week during our Pisces eclipse, our Pisces eclipse cycle. Let me go read what people have been saying. Hold on. So Anthony said, "Yep, that's happening. I'm meeting more spiritually in tune folks in the city, and it's been so great. The soul tribe is forming slowly but surely. I love that for you." Dom says, "That's so real. I started doing stand-up comedy in LA, and it's truly about who you know and networking with other comics and bookers who want to book you on shows." Yes, yes, so true. Um, there's hi mom. My mom's here. Everybody say hi, mom. Hoping I meet a man while on vacation. I love that for you. Yeah, this is a beautiful time to meet a partner, especially if you have, a very prominent Jupiter. I think the exaltation of Jupiter right now in Cancer is allowing soul-aligned partners or soul-aligned men, or even partners that are very emotionally invested, or partners that want to grow a family. Like Jupiter in Cancer is really aligning people with, partnerships in like a new way and stuff. Especially if you're like a water sign or earth sign, or if you're a cardinal sign. So if you're water sign, earth sign, or cardinal sign, or if, yeah, if you're a water sign, earth sign, or cardinal sign, this can be about, this is a very romantic, meeting a partner type of transit or type of period. I don't want to say transit, period is what I meant to say. Okay, cool, awesome. So let's keep going. One of the other things I was gonna say, okay, about this period, okay, you need to get really good with marketing yourself and advertising and promoting yourself. Okay, this whole thing around like being like excessively humble or being excessively shy or like not really believing in yourself, like that is not going to work. This period is not about blending in. The 1960s and the 50s were about blending in. That was like the Pluto and like that was like Pluto in Virgo, Pluto in Cancer, Pluto in like Leo. No, not this period. This period is about standing out. How do you stand out from the crowd? How do you differentiate yourself? What is unique about you? What is different about you? And the more different that you are, the more that you're gonna like, the more that you stand out, the more that you're gonna get celebrated, the more successful you're gonna be, the more that you're gonna get embraced, the more people are gonna be magnetized to you. Right? So we have a tendency, human beings have a tendency to like fall in line, and we tend to want to protect ourselves, give ourselves a false sense of protection, whether it be our identity or ego, whether it be, right? We tend to protect ourselves by assimilating. Assimilation is protection, right? Well, if I blend in, then I'm not going to be singled out, and right, and no one's gonna like pay attention to me, right? But that's not what we're here to do right now. That's not this period. If you do that, you are gonna, I'm telling you, you're sleeping on yourself. You are gonna get overlooked. You're gonna get walked all over. You are not gonna get chosen. You're not gonna get selected. You're not gonna get a call back. You're not gonna. So you got to find right now ways to define yourself that separate you from the crowd, that are unique, that are different, where you differentiate yourself, right? We got to discover that right now. We're being encouraged to do that because that's this future that we're stepping into. That's where a lot of success, that's where a lot of the money, that's where a lot of the like good things are going to be at. So I'm trying to put you guys on. Listen, I'm trying to give you a little heads up about where we're going, okay? So that in the next 5, 10 years, you can be like, oh, Louie told me that 5 years ago. I've been putting in the work and now look where I'm at. Wow, right? Telling y'all. So, okay. All right. Let's start talking about the astrology of the week. Let's start talking about it. So, we are moving through our lunar eclipse in Pisces. I'm actually going to go ahead and share my screen. So if you're watching this back on YouTube, you'll be able to go ahead and see. You'll be able to see the chart. If you're not watching this on YouTube and you're here with me on Instagram Live right now, well, you could go ahead and pull up a chart if you want to and follow along if you want. Okay. Um, all right. So today the moon just left Pisces, and the moon's going to be in Aries for the next 3 days. So let's take a look and let's take a look and see. Let's take a look and see. Um, so we're looking at Monday, September 8th. We're looking at, that's today, Tuesday, September 9th, and we're looking at Wednesday, September 10th. The moon is going to go leave Aries and go into Taurus on Wednesday. So moon in Aries over the next few days. All right. A lot of action, a lot of energy, a lot of motivation. So, with the moon in Aries and Mars in Libra, this is about trying to achieve balance in your life in some type of way, or having to deal with some kind of conflict in your life that could be like very frustrating, irritating, but it's like trying to bring things back into harmony and balance, or harmony and balance some type of way. This could also be like Monday, Tuesday, like today, tomorrow, going into Wednesday could be very pivotal or important for cardinal signs since the moon is transiting Aries and it's going to be aspecting Capricorn and Cancer with a square. It's going to be opposing Libra, right, where Mars is transiting. And then Aries, the moon's going to be in Aries. So if you have Aries placements, it's going to be going over you. So it could activate you. One of the big things about astrology is the moon in transit, because it's the fastest moving planet. It changes signs every 2.5 days. The moon in transit is what activates things typically. So one of the good ways to forecast things for yourself, if you're like learning your own chart and you want to start reading transits, or you're learning about transits, is you want to take a look at where the moon is at on any particular day. Even for like an outcome of something. Let's say, oh, you have an outcome of something that you're wondering about on a particular day. Well, you could go look at your chart and see, is the moon in a good place that day, at that time, that decision or that judgment or whatever, or that experience is happening? Or is the moon in a bad place in your chart for you, right? And then if the moon's in a good place and it's like supporting your chart, right? Or it's in a good house, more than likely you're going to get what you want, or it's going to be a good outcome. If the moon's in a bad place in your chart, right, and it's negatively aspecting things in your chart, more than likely it's going to be a bad outcome, or it's going to be a little bit more challenging of an outcome, right? It's a very easy, simple way to be able to like forecast, okay, well, what's going to happen? Especially like if you go on interviews, if you have an interview at 12 o'clock on, September 12th, you can go and look at the chart at that very moment. You can look at the rising and you pull up the birth chart for 12 o'clock on September 12th, put in the location of your interview, and you'll have a chart that'll show you more than likely the outcome of your interview. If it's going to be a good thing or a bad thing, you'll probably even be able to see the sign of the person that's going to be giving you the interview based on that chart, you know? Um, but yeah, it's good practice. It's good practice. So with the moon going through Aries, right? Houses 1, 5, and 9 are good. Houses 4, 8, and 12 are bad. The other ones tend to be a little bit more neutral. So houses 2, 6, and 10. 6 is a challenging house, 2 is a neutral house, 10 is a good house. And then 3, 7, and 11. 11 is a really good house. 7 is a good house. 3 is more of a neutral house. So houses four, well, four is of houses 4, 8, and 12, four is the most positive, is the strongest. Houses 8 and 12 are very difficult. Those are probably the worst houses. Objectively speaking. So, no, actually, no, not objectively speaking. Subjectively speaking is what I meant to say. Because the reason why I say subjectively is because these are my opinions. Okay. And, right, there may be other astrologers that think otherwise, but it works for me. And, generally speaking, you will see the goodness or badness of an experience, manifest based off, the strength of a house, and things like that. So, okay. But yeah, so Moon and Aries, today, Tuesday, going into Wednesday. So wait, hold on, let me see. On Wednesday, is it Wednesday? It's like Tuesday. Hold on. On Wednesday, let me go here. We have a Mars Moon opposition. So no fighting on Wednesday. Okay. We have the moon in Aries opposite Mars and Libra on Wednesday. It's gonna be, let me actually put in the time here. Hold on, so I can tell you guys what time it's gonna be for those of you who are in the States, because that could be like a little bit of a moment of conflict, or we can like end up getting an argument, or there's going to be like stimulating energy. This is a great energy to like do something very passionate. So while the moon's in Aries over the next few days, It's a good energy to like do something that you're passionate about, do something that's very inspiring. Go ahead and sweat a little, go to the gym, go on a run, reactivate your Mars energy, get in a right relationship with your Mars energy, do something assertive, do something bold, do something new that you haven't done before, while the moon's in Aries. It's a very inspiring, motivating energy, and stuff like that. Even though, we're coming out of an eclipse, if you do need to rest, make sure you honor that. If the eclipse is like took you out energetically and you have no energy and you're all sensitive and you're just a mushy mess and you are in tears and you're thinking about your ex from 10 years ago, like, baby, do you? Okay, honor that. All right, wherever you happen to be at. But try to get to the gym. All right. Try to cry at the gym, okay? Go to the gym and cry, all right? While you're doing your Stairmaster. I miss him so much. You're on your Stairmaster, like you do you, boo, okay? But yeah, the moon in Aries is a very fun, exciting place for the moon. It's a very spicy placement for the moon. I had to look. My Cancer moon is in the eighth. At, that's funny. Okay, so yeah, so the moon in Aries. Also on Wednesday, as the moon is opposing Mars in Libra, the moon is hitting a conjunction with Chiron, right? So we want to be very aware of any kind of like woundedness or, wounded men. Well, one of the things I've noticed, which is really interesting, one of the things I've noticed is that it's kind of sad. It's like not good, but one of the things I've noticed is that when Chiron in Aries gets activated, that's usually when we see like a school shooting or something. Not to get like dark and macabre all of a sudden, but I've noticed that when the moon is aspecting that Chiron in Aries, or when that Chiron gets activated, like we'll get like a school shooting, or there'll be like, or men are feeling very violent, or like wounded men take the public eye in some type of way. There's like some kind of woundedness with men because Aries is connected to the masculine energy, right? I want to say men. I'm trying to do better at being a little bit more gender neutral and not so like men, women. What I will say is that people that are Martian in nature, so people that are aggressive or people that have a temper or people that have a deep wound associated with anger and rage, they're easily triggered. What I've noticed is that when the moon is aspecting that Chiron or when that Chiron in Aries gets activated, we tend to see some like violence or we tend to see some kind of like some wounded man doing something, getting triggered emotionally and then acting on his anger and his rage and like doing something or some kind of violence, right? Because Aries is a sign of violence. So we just want to be very aware of, trigger warning, trigger warning. We just want to be very aware of any kind of like domestic violence going into the weekend or even when the moon in Aries opposing Mars and Libra on Tuesday, Wednesday. You know, the axis of an Aries and Libra, for those of you that are learning, has a lot to do with violence and domestic violence and like fighting and stuff. And it's a very cardinal sign thing. I see it in Capricorn, Cancer, Aries, Libra people lives all the time. I do readings for a lot of Libra rising women, and they have Aries in the seventh house of partnership. They have Aries, the sign of war and violence, in the seventh house of partnership. A lot of Libra rising women, Libra moon, Libra Venus, okay, they've dealt with domestically violent partners. They've dealt with angry partners. They've had that experience because of the influence of Mars and Aries, right? And things like that. Also, you got to think Capricorn, Mars is exalted in sign of Capricorn, which is one of the cardinal signs. So we just want to be aware of like fighting or arguing with partners. We want to just be very aware of that energy. We want to, I think sometimes I have Mars in Libra, and I think the beauty of Mars in Libra is having the discernment to know when to fight and when not to fight. And like when peace is like the safer option, or when peace is the more successful, or we're gonna get like the outcome that we want. That's what my Mars and Libra does for me. Like I'll really know, okay, this is something I gotta fight for, and this is something that I can like work through. Or this is like not worth the fight because I'm gonna put my ass in danger. Like so we want to have that increased discernment as the moon is transiting Aries, especially on Tuesday evening going into Wednesday. Okay, if you are here in the States, Tuesday evening going into Wednesday, because we're gonna have the moon opposing Mars in Libra, and then the moon's gonna move and hit Chiron in Aries. So I just want to make you guys aware of that, okay? The beautiful thing, though, about this energy, which we love, the beautiful thing about the moon in Aries, though, on Tuesday, going to Wednesday, as the moon is getting to the last, or the getting to the last decan of Aries, the last 10 degrees of Aries, The moon, well, actually, no, because Venus is at 18. The moon's actually trining Venus on Tuesday and Wednesday as well. So as the moon leaves and hits an opposition with Mars and hits Chiron, the first aspect the moon makes is a trine to Venus, though, which we love. Because I think that trine to Venus can like really offset the negativity or the pressure of the moon opposing Mars and the moon hitting Chiron. I think, that Venus trine the moon on Tuesday is very beneficial. I think it's very expansive. I think it's very healing. I think there's a aspect that's an aspect of like peace and harmony and like forgiveness and grace and like reconciliation and stuff. So, if there is some like issues or problems that come up in your relationships, this week, and you start to see it over the next few days, the moon in Aries, you remember what I said. Venus and Mars are going to move into a sextile on Sunday, right? This weekend. So I do think that there is an opportunity, and they're going to be trying, right? Mars is going to be opposing Chiron, but Venus is going to be sextiling and trining that Chiron and Aries. So there's this a beautiful opportunity for healing and reconciliation as well, right? Especially like it's Aries, Libra, and it's Venus and Leo, Mars and Libra, and the Moon in Aries. So this is like fire sign, air sign activation. So if you're a fire sign or air sign, if you have your Venus there, your rising there, your moon there, your sun there, the Mars in Libra and the Venus in Leo is activating you. Those planets, right, are activating your chart for you guys. So, pay attention to like gender dynamics. If you're a fire sign, air sign, if you have that very dominant in your chart, pay attention to like what gender dynamics are manifesting in your life in the realm of like people. Like, and it doesn't have to be like romantic. It can be friendships as well, right? It could be coworkers and stuff. So, but there's some kind of gender, there's some kind of pressure or moment, or there's some kind of energy activating relationships in some type of way, in a positive way, though. It could be triggering at first, but then I think there could be reconciliation or healing. Okay. So I just want you guys to be aware of that because like Tuesday, Wednesday, the moon has to, you know, oppose Mars, go through Chiron, and then it's trining Venus. You have a Libra moon. I love that for you. Libra moon. I love my Libra ladies. I love my Libra moon, Libra Venus, Libra rising ladies. Um, y'all follow me. Y'all I got a lot of Libra rising female followers, which is so interesting. And you know why I think it is? I'm gonna tell you why I think it is. It's because I have Jupiter in Aries. And so what I've noticed is like there's certain signs, and you'll notice this too. Like there's certain people or certain signs that really love you, that really like you. The sign opposite your Jupiter is gonna always see you as like wise, or like they're gonna like be like, oh my God, you're so amazing. And they're gonna be really kind and really sweet to you. And that's because your Jupiter, right, falls, or that's because they're opposing your Jupiter, right? So they're in the seventh place to your Jupiter. So I'm like, so for Libra rising, because my Jupiter's in Aries in their seventh house, I'm Jupiter to them. So I'm like sweet and kind and benevolent, and I show up as like a wise man to a lot of Libras. Because my Jupiter is opposing them. It's opposing their sun in Libra, their Libra rising, their moon in Libra, right? And moon opposite Jupiter feels really good in any relationship, whether it be a friendship, whether it be romantic, whether it be with a sibling or with your child. If you have a moon and their Jupiter's opposing your moon, oh my God, you're gonna love the crap out of them. They're gonna make you laugh. You're gonna look at them like this, like, oh, my little baby, right? Like we get that when Moon and Jupiter are aspecting each other in Sin history. It's like really good. It's really positive, right? So I've noticed that. I've noticed that. Also, I've noticed that Virgos really like me. Your seventh house is also really gonna like people in your seventh, or the sign that's your seventh. Those people are gonna love you too, because they're your mirror, right? They're your seventh house. So they are kind of like the people that you're supposed to partner with in a way, right? Especially when people have good planets in your seventh house. If they have like, the moon, Jupiter, Mercury, or Venus, right? If they have a Mars in your seventh, that could be a little bit more difficult. Saturn or Mars in your seventh, but it really depends. It's a case by case basis. So yeah, just food for thought, little tangent for you guys. The Mars and Libra brought me here. I started talking about relationships and stuff. We started talking about that. So then, all right, let's keep going. The moon goes into an exalted state, which we love, starting on Wednesday. So on Wednesday, midday, it's actually gonna be, hold on. Gonna be, wow, wow. Want some Marvin Gaye. some Luther Vandross, a little Anita. I'm gonna set the party on fire. It's gonna be. Well. You guys know that song by Twista? Want some mini Ripperton, some Moon Edition, some yeah, something. I can't remember the lyrics, but that it just like came. Sorry. ADD brain, my bad. Let me go ahead and put this in whole sign because why am I reading this in Placidus? I am not a Placidus astrologer. Okay. Let's go by, hold on, guys. I'm going by hours here. So the moon goes into Taurus. Oh, we got a little music intermission, huh? Hold on, guys. The moon goes in, I'm going by 6 hour increments here. Trying to get it exactly on. It's 7 o'clock on the dot. I'm in my drop top, cruising the streets. Yeah. Oh, right around 12 o'clock. So Wednesday, midday Pacific time. Okay. September 10th, the moon goes into Taurus. In the moon, she enters her exalted state in Taurus. Okay. As the moon goes into Taurus, the first aspect that she makes Wednesday midday is she squares Pluto in Aquarius. So that square to Pluto is a moment of emotional transformation, a moment of emotional revelation. It could be a power dynamic thing that you feel. There could be a moment of purging, a moment of release, you know. That Pluto in Aquarius, I've been feeling that because I have an early degree Sun, Mercury, and Scorpio, and that Pluto in Aquarius squaring my Sun right now. I've been feeling that Pluto square, okay? And it needs to go, all right? It needs to go. The Pluto square needs to go, all right? I'm done with Pluto. He was on my moon forever. And now he's squaring my Sun and my Mercury. So I'm feeling it. I'm feeling the identity transformation, you know? But yeah, the moon square Pluto, that is our opening aspect with the moon going into Taurus. What's interesting, right? And I think this has been like a theme. I think it's been a theme. I think Pluto in Aquarius has been about the transformation of our friendships and our social circles. And I think Pluto in Aquarius has been about how many of us are like combined with the Uranus and Gemini trying Pluto and Aquarius, we're like finally ready to like put ourselves on display on like social media. We're finally ready to go and get involved in community. We're finally ready to like do social networking. We're finally ready to like get the YouTube started. We're finally ready to like, we're like feeling called to do that. And so if you're feeling called to do that and you're not ready yet, but you know you're going to be ready soon, start getting the foundation ready, okay? Start getting the foundation ready. Start planning, start blueprinting, okay? Because that Uranus Pluto trine, that Uranus and Gemini trine Pluto and Aquarius, I really feel like that's really speaking to the transformation of how we engage socially with others. And a lot of it has a lot to do with social media, right? And how all of us, we have these beautiful new friends that are all around the world now, you know? Ever since the whatchamacallit, you know, the vid, the I don't want to call it the, what should I call it? I need to call it the nickname for it. The scamdemic? Hmm? I don't want to use the P word. I don't want to use the pan word. So I was like, scamdemic. That's what we'll call it. We'll call it the scamdemic, okay? But how many of us have, you know, met all these beautiful new people since the scamdemic? And social media has brought these beautiful new people into our life, you know? Also, one of the things that's super cool about social media is kind of like the divine connections that happen that are very random, but they're also like very orchestrated. So I want you to understand, like, you know, the logarithms and stuff like that, they're also, even though they're like systems, right? They're the really cool thing that they also do is they kind of like divinely connect us to others randomly, right? Like many people are like, I don't know how I found your page, but I just found your page one day and like wow, and like you know, I really resonate with you. And ever since I've been following you, you know, my life has changed and you've been really inspiring for me. But like that, how you know, social media is putting people together, bringing people together, or like how social media like sorts connections and stuff is so interesting. It's like it's magical. I think it's divine. I think there is an element of divine orchestration around how, we're randomly meeting people on social media. We think it's random, but it's not. It's actually part of, it's part of the divine workings. We need to, so don't just like, write off people that you meet online or whatever, because I do think those relationships are going to be more important and more pivotal as we move into the future, especially with Pluto now in Aquarius, and with Uranus permanently going, not permanently going to Gemini, but going to be in Gemini next year for the next 7 years, right? He's going to be in Gemini firmly. That's, I guess, what I could say you know? So yeah. Anyways, let's get back to the moon in Taurus. So moon square Pluto, okay? Moment of transformation, moment of revelation, a moment of epiphany, moon square Pluto. That could be something very dramatic as well with the moon squaring Pluto. What's also really interesting is that the moon in Taurus is responding to Venus in Leo, right? So with the moon in Taurus responding to Venus in Leo, the moon in Taurus on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday could be having us feeling very expressive and very dramatic and very creative and very performative, and we want to sing and we want to dance and we want to go tell someone that we love them and ask someone on a date, and we're feeling very, very like that, because moon in Taurus responding to Venus and Leo, it seems like, the moon's exalted, Venus, she's kind of in a good spot. So it kind of feels like there's this, joy, I would say, with the moon in Taurus on Wednesday. There may be an initial difficulty or initial hardship though, okay, with that moon square Pluto. So let's keep going. Let me see. So then on Thursday, the moon is still in Taurus. Da, 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 da. And then the other reason why the moon in Taurus is going to be kind of like nice is because as the moon gets to the middle degrees of Taurus, middle-ish, midway, which is I'm looking at Thursday, 12 p.m. Pacific time now, September 11th, the moon moves into a trine with Mercury and the sun. So we have sun trine the moon on Thursday around 6 p.m. Pacific time, and the moon is going to be trining Mercury, and then Sun Mercury are getting ready to Cazimi, I believe, right? I think they're getting ready to Cazimi. So to me, this beautiful moon trine the sun and trine Mercury, it feels like good positive news. I do think that there's some people that maybe, yeah, I don't know. It's because like Sun Mercury going through the South Node, so that's about like loss or endings or release or purging. But then the moon is like trining Sun and Mercury, which is also about like positive things and good things coming in, maybe new jobs, new opportunities, us making a decision or a choice, or us just having a really good meal, a good dinner Thursday night, with the moon in Taurus. I always noticed that when the moon's in Taurus, I spend more money and I eat more in general. Like I'm hungrier, I spend more money. I also like mosey around a little bit in the morning. Like I don't like get up right away when the moon's in Taurus. I just like kind of chill out. I'm like, oh, the moon's in Taurus. Like I could be Empress energy today. Like I could just sit on my couch and receive the fruits of my labor and just like indulge. That's definitely a moon in Taurus thing. But yeah, that moon trine Mercury, moon trine Sun, we may get clarity around, there may be some like insights or some like alignment with the self, or there may be, a decision that you've been thinking about making, and it's just like everything starts to click, or you even get like positive good news or good information because the moon is trining Mercury, right? So I like that moon trine Mercury, moon trine Sun, right? This is also if a baby is born this day on September 11th. Oh, this is 9/11. Oh, didn't realize that. But yeah, if the baby is born this day, this child's gonna be very, very close with their mother, and this child's also gonna have tons of siblings and come from a big family, and they're gonna love their dad, and their dad's gonna be like spiritual, or he's gonna be wise, or their dad's gonna be, always working, where mom is probably the caretaker, the one at home and stuff like that. But it's a good chart. It's a good chart. 9/11 for a baby to be born. I love my favorite charts are when like I think people, well, not my I don't want to say favorite because I don't have favorites, but it's more so I've seen when people have the sun trine the moon in their chart, their life is like really easy, or their life is like things tend to be more graceful with themselves. Like their emotions and their family and who they are, moon. right? Aligns with like their identity, their career, like their ego, their self-expression, the sun. Like sun trine the moon is really good because when people have that, they tend to have a very supportive family and they tend to have like a good start at life, when the moon and the sun are in a positive relationship with each other, especially a trine. So yeah, we have that sunshine moon, on Thursday that is really expansive. It's really positive. It's giving, really it's giving clarity, it's giving support, it's giving groundedness, it's giving stability. It's also giving like financial abundance. So there could be like money that comes in or something. The moon's in Taurus, Sun, Mercury's in Virgo, right? So I think it's a very positive day on Thursday. Okay. And it's the day of Jupiter, right? So all right, so let's keep going. So moon progresses through Taurus. And also Moon in Taurus, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday is an activation for fixed signs. So if you're a Taurus, Scorpio, Aquarius, Leo, that moon transit, opposing you if you're a Scorpio, transiting you if you're a Taurus, or squaring you if you're a Leo or Aquarius is going to be very important. One of the things that might be a little interesting on Friday as we're entering Friday. It's like 12 midnight. It's not, no, what is this? I guess it's like 12:01 Friday, September 12th. Is midnight? Midnight's the next day, right? Is 12 o'clock midnight considered like the next day? I think it is. Yeah, I think it is. So 12 o'clock midnight, Friday, September 12th, we have Moon Square Venus. And that moon square Venus can be a moment of overindulgence. And we also have the moon opposite Lilith. So I just want you guys to be careful with overspending on Friday, eating too much, drinking too much, partying too much. We are in a lunar eclipse in Pisces cycle. One of the big recommendations that I made when we were talking about the lunar eclipse is um, no blacking out during this eclipse cycle. Okay. So no drinking to the point where you black out, no going unconscious, no, taking drugs to the point where you lose your consciousness or you lose yourself. Do not do that during this eclipse cycle. You are going to put yourself possibly in danger. Okay. Yeah, you got to be careful. All right. Eclipses can be very tumultuous and very tragic and very dangerous. It can be chaotic. And, Pisces has a lot to do with escapism and avoidance and alcoholism and substance abuse, but it also has a lot to do with the dissolution of the consciousness. Like when you lose consciousness, when you black out, when you're not aware of who you are, where you're at, what's going on. That's Pisces thing. So just be careful with overindulging on Friday with that Venus square the moon. That is a signature of overindulgence and overspending and doing too much. And also, some kind of contention in relationships because we do have Venus also squaring Lilith in Scorpio. We have this T square with Venus, right? Squaring the moon, squaring Lilith, who are both opposing each other, right? So that's a T square. And there could be some like drama around relationships or partnerships that evening, or that day. Thursday evening going into Friday. But then the moon moves past Venus. So, but yeah, we just want to watch out for that, okay? No overindulging, no overdoing it, no overspending. Just be mindful. But this is really good for love and relationships, though, especially as the moon passes that 21 degrees and she keeps going so like by 12 p.m. midday Pacific time on September 12th, a Friday, she's already at 28 degrees Taurus and she's going into Gemini. So moon in Gemini for the weekend, that's our what? It's a few things. That is our waning square from our lunar eclipse in Pisces. So this weekend is going to be an activation point with the moon going into Gemini. And it's going to be a very social weekend, very exciting weekend. A lot of communication, maybe hanging out with aunts and uncles and siblings, maybe, running a lot of errands, being out in the town, maybe people leaving for travel. Moon in Gemini opposes Sagittarius. Gemini and Sagittarius are these signs that have a lot to do with travel, long distance travel sources. Long distance travel, Sagittarius, short distance travel is Gemini. So with the moon in Gemini, right, going into like Friday by 6 p.m., the moon's at 2 degrees Gemini hitting Uranus. And so, come Saturday, the moon's in Gemini. We're gonna have the moon in Gemini through the weekend. This is like a lot of social stimulation, a lot of like, social activity and stuff like this. We may be a little stressed out or our nervous system could feel overwhelmed a little bit. going into the weekend with the moon in Gemini and the sun in Mercury in Virgo. That's like a lot of Mercury energy. It's just like a lot of Mercury. It's like a lot of what's going on with our mind, or our mind is racing, our nerves are feeling overwhelmed. We just got so many options and so many choices and so many decisions. Like, ground yourself, slow down, relax. Okay. If you start to feel panicky over the weekend, you definitely need to take a chill pill, breathe, don't put yourself in environments that are going to stress you out or that are too stimulating, you just want to be a little careful with that. Okay. And then, so we, on Friday, right? As the moon is leaving Taurus, you're Pisces rising like me, right? Socializing is stressful. If you have Pisces place, oh no, not Pisces placements, no. If you are Pisces rising, socializing comes with stress because of our Capricorn in the fifth, in the 11th house, Capricorn ruling the 11th. There's something like Pisces rising gets drained, exhausted when they're out and socially engaging. Like, their social battery is very, very limited. Like, I cannot be out for that long. I don't like doing like a 3-day, 5-day concert event or like something. I cannot do that. No, that's not me. Okay. Take me home. After the first day, I'm ready to go. I get tired, I get burnt out, and I get grumpy, and I don't even want to be around people at some point. So like, yeah, I get it. It's a Pisces thing. Pisces rising especially. So Moon and Gemini. Oh yeah. So wait. I was gonna talk about something. Oh yeah. I was gonna talk about the Sun, Mercury, Cazimi. So in the beginning of the video, I believe I was saying it was Saturday, but it's actually gonna be 20 degrees Virgo for Friday evening going into Saturday. We have Sun, Mercury, Cazimi. I'm looking at 6 p.m. Friday, 6 p.m. Pacific time, Friday, September 12th. We have our Sun, Mercury, Cazimi, and Virgo. So, that there could be like these moments of revelation or epiphany on Friday. And the weekend can be about these sudden dramatic shifts or changes in our life. Because, right, as the moon goes into Gemini, it's making a square to our lunar eclipse in Pisces. So there can be an unfolding of an event associated with our eclipse. Like, so there could be some kind of narrative or story or something that happens, especially if you're a mutable sign, if you have mutable placements, Pisces, Virgo, Gemini, Sag, or through the weekend as the moon is transiting Gemini. Okay. Because it's going to square the nodes. And so the moon actually, it hits Uranus as it goes into Gemini, right? So that's a moment of liberation, a moment of emancipation, a moment of rebellion, a moment of doing something dramatically different. I won't be surprised if, like, Friday going to Saturday, like this weekend, we're doing things that we've never done before, or we're trying new things out, or we're like feeling very experimental in some type of way. Like, some of you may be discovering like, oh, maybe you are bi, maybe you do have, you're a man with a Virgo placement, and maybe you do, possibly, like maybe you do, want to do some butt. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. But not really. With the moon Uranus together, right? There could be a moment where you're like, I want to make a dramatic change, right? With moon Uranus coming together. We also got to keep in mind Uranus is trining Pluto. So, that Uranus Pluto trine is definitely transforming and changing us. I've noticed a lot of people who have the beginning, like they have like air signs, like a sun, moon, or rising at the beginning degrees. The Uranus Pluto has been going to work on them. Like the Uranus Pluto has been really going to work on them. And like someone said, you're definitely not kidding. Someone said there's truth in every joke. All the people laugh. It's time for experimentation. You know what I feel? Let me tell you what I feel, okay? In this like age of Aquarius, I think we're gonna start to realize as like the social prejudices die down, as like the taboo of being an LGBT individual, as like being LGBT becomes more socially acceptable and becomes more normal, more people are going to be coming out as like bi, and like they're going to be more comfortable with expressing their bisexuality, their bi curiosity, or even their interest in like other things, sexually and stuff. So I think that's an inevitable direction that we're going. You know what I mean? Yeah, and unconventional relationships like the polyamory relationships and the polycules. Have you guys heard about that? The polycule relationships. What is, I want to be in a polycule. Invite me. I'm just kidding. I don't want to be. I'm very monogamous. I listen, my Capricorn moon, my Venus in Scorpio, I too jealous, too possessive, too controlling for more than one partner. I can't even deal with one. How am I going to deal with two or three? I can't even deal with one. Come on now. A polycule. Anyone want to explain what a polycule is? I just I don't even remember what it is, honestly. I think it's I think it's a relationship where there's like more than four or five people or something. Capricorn, she said, Dayla said, Capricorn placements, even just one has us in a monogamy chokehold. You're right. I can't even deal with one, let alone two, three, four, five, you know? Complicated. But yeah, we're gonna definitely see the diversification of relationship styling, relationship types. Aquarius, Sun, Pluto. Family constellation of partners and their partners. You have me Google a family constellation of partners and their partners. Oh, interesting. Okay. So, all right. So yeah, Moon Uranus together in Gemini Friday at 6 p.m. September 12th. And then on Saturday, our Sun Mercury Cazimi from Friday night to Saturday. Excuse me. And then the moon is going through Gemini. Moon's going through Gemini. The moon's going through Gemini. And then it seems like Saturday. Hold on. I'm trying to see what happens when the moon gets to. Okay. Okay. Saturday evening going into Sunday. That's when things get really interesting. Things get really interesting because what happens is the moon in Gemini moves in to square Sun, South Node, Mercury, and Virgo. At the same time, the moon is moving into sextile Venus, and at the same time, the moon is trining Mars. So we have this Venus, South Node, Mercury, Sun, Mars activation happening. Saturday night going into Sun. I'm looking at Sunday. I'm looking at Sunday morning, like Sunday midnight, like not midnight of Sunday, but like midnight of like Saturday Eve's midnight as we transition to Sunday. And we have this huge activation of like Venus, Mars, the South Node, Sun, Mercury. So that's kind of giving me like Saturdays to Sundays very stimulating. There's a lot of activity. We're talking to people, we're socializing, we're hanging out, we're really busy, but that moon's square Sun Mercury though, I don't know, that tells me that there's karmic events unfolding. The moon squaring the nodes and the moon square Sun Mercury tells me that there's karmic events unfolding that are tied to the eclipses on Saturday evening going into Sunday. Yes, there's karmic unfolding of events. For sure, for sure, for sure, for sure. Mars is also moving into that opposition with Chiron. So Mars is at 24 Libra and Chiron's at 26. And Mars is separating from that square with Jupiter. So that's another feature this week that we're still dealing with. Welcome everybody. It's been super intense crying. I know there's been a lot of, I know my love. It's been a lunar eclipse in Pisces. So just make sure you're crying, getting all the tears out. We've been feeling very sensitive, very soft, very emotional. We've also been feeling very like, I don't know about y'all, but I've been feeling very romantic. I've been feeling very like lovey-dovey energy. I've been feeling very bromantic. With the lunar eclipse in Pisces in my rising sign and the Sun, Mercury, South Node going through my seventh house. And I think I don't know, I think it's Venus in Leo trining my Jupiter because Venus is like trining my Jupiter in Aries. So, but I've been feeling, yeah, nostalgia. Nostalgia is a good word. That's a good Pisces word. Cancer too. Cancer is a very nostalgic sign. But Pisces and Cancer are those signs that are like they daydream, They're like, oh, daydreamer. So sitting on the sea, soaking up the sun. He is a real lover. Running up the past and shaking up his girl like he's never felt her figure before. You guys know that song, Daydreamer, by Adele? Like that's off her first album, I think. I think that's off of 19, isn't it? I think it's off of her first album. Someone said my hookup guy dumped me on my birthday Saturday. Oh, happy belated birthday. But if he dumped you on your birthdays because he's not meant to come with you into your next year. You got to take that as a sign from the universe. That is protection, my love. And he was just a hookup guy anyways. You know, we tend to be a little delusional sometimes around, you know, our expectations of others. And I think we need to be a little bit more realistic around like what a relationship is so that we don't end up catching feelings or so that we can like keep our feelings grounded and stable and logical, right? Instead of like romanticizing and fantasizing a connection with someone that is purely based off of sex, right? Or that that person is not looking for something, or that that person's not ready for a relationship, or you're not, right? Like we can get really carried away with our sentiments and our emotions. We can allow our feelings to just like do their thing, but we're not actually rationalizing them. They're not realistic or practical. So we have to like ground our emotions into truth and into reality. We have to smack ourselves and be like, listen, like, is this practical? Should you be catching feel? Is this safe? Should you be catching feelings for this person? Like, what are you doing? So yeah, but it's hard. Sometimes even just with synergy you have with people, it can be really hard to resist catching feelings. If someone is like has planets talking to your moon, if someone has planets like in your fifth and in your seventh, it could be really hard to resist like romance, or it can be hard to resist, catching feelings for them and stuff. But you gotta like, you gotta be realistic. You gotta be practical. You gotta be logical. You don't want to end up hurting yourself. So something to think in mind as we're something to keep in mind as we're going through this lunar eclipse in Pisces, because Pisces is definitely a sign of it's the sign of fantasy and delusion. Venus exalts in Pisces, but a lot of times, we'll be in a relationship with someone and they don't even know it. Right? Like you're like, oh yeah, that's my boyfriend. Like they don't even know it. You guys haven't had that discussion. You're just assuming based off the way things are. Like, they don't even know your name. You haven't even met them. They only, you're right. You're just like I don't know. So yeah, ninth is really good. Yeah, ninth is like a Dharma relationship. We love ninth house synastry. Ninth house is very, it's about devotion and faith and deep commitment and loyalty. And, you know, the ninth house is a really, really good house. If you want to partner with someone, if you want someone to be a good partner to your child, right? If you want someone to partner, or I'm sorry, cancel clear. If you want to partner with someone that's going to be good to your child, partner with someone that has something in your ninth house or your first house. Okay. And let me tell you why. Because their placements in your ninth house and in your first house trine your fifth house, even if they have placements in your fifth house, right? They will be, well, if they have placements in your fifth house, they can give you children. You guys can have children together, right? Especially, you know, like I don't want to say it like this, but I got to say it like this because procreation and baby making is between a male and a female biologically, right? Or usually it's like that. So when we're looking at synastry compatibility and we're talking about procreation and baby making, but even not, no, 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 I got to cancel clear that. I even got to take that back because it could even be adoption. Sometimes when someone has Saturn in your fifth house or they have the moon or Jupiter in your fifth house, and if it's in like an Aquarius sign, if it's in like an Aquarius or Capricorn, or let's say they have Uranus in your fifth house, that could be you guys adopting together, or that could be artificial insemination, right? Or that can be, you know, the turkey baster, you know? Please don't take me seriously today. I'm a goofball. I'm sorry, you guys. My apologies. I'm just not, I don't know what's gotten into me today. My LGBT humor is coming out today, okay? I am a gay man if you didn't know that, so. But yeah, anyways, let's keep going. Let's keep going. So you want them to have placements in houses 159. That's like so good. Synastry with 159. If you want them to be good to your kids, you want them to aspect your fifth house ruler positively, or you want them to have placements in houses one house in your first house or your ninth house. Okay. Keeping you guys laughing, keeping you guys engaged, you know? Keeping you guys engaged. So yeah, so on Sunday, right? The moon's gonna be in Gemini, wrapping up to, I'm looking at the moon, I'm looking at 12 o'clock Sunday, September 14th. I'm looking at the moon at 19 degrees, and it's squaring the south node and the north node, and it's squaring the sun and Mercury, moving into a square with Sun Mercury. So, we just want to be very aware of like this transitionary energy, this eclipse energy kind of, being echoed next weekend on Saturday and Sunday, September 13th and 14th, as the moon is transiting Gemini. Okay. We love moon trine Mars, though. Moon trine Mars is very stimulating, it's very sexual, it's very, very passionate, very expressive. Moon trine Mars. So don't be surprised if you get hit on Saturday night going into Sunday. Moon trine Mars, someone's hitting on somebody. That's like, I like, and then Venus is also moving to that sextile with Mars, which is one of the things I was talking about. Venus and Mars sextiling each other on Sunday. So like, that's flirtatiousness. That's like meeting somebody. If you want to go out, Saturday night on Sunday, this would be a good time to meet someone in a public environment, especially with Venus and Leo. Moon in Gemini, Venus and Leo, Mars and Libra, like Gemini, Leo, Libra activated in the sky. Like it's a good time to meet people. It's a good time to socialize. It's a good time to go to like a group meeting. It's very flirty energy. It's very flirtatious. It's very flirty. So, something I want you guys to just be aware of. Yeah. Yes, 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 yes. And then as the moon is wrapping up on Sunday in Gemini, by 6 p.m. Sunday, the moon is moves into Cancer actually, and the moon's already in Cancer. By 6 p.m. Sunday. And then we have the moon in Cancer. I'm really excited for the moon in Cancer transit next week. The moon in Cancer, it starts off 6 p.m. Sunday, and then it's going to be in Cancer Monday and Tuesday of next week. We love the moon in Cancer. Why do we love the moon in Cancer? Because Jupiter's in Cancer. And the moon in Cancer, that's the fifth house away from our lunar eclipse in Pisces. So this is the best that we are going to get. This is like expansion, opportunity, luck, love, abundance, procreation, baby making, birthing something, comfort with the family, healing with the family, calling your mom, going back to the past, visiting the homeland, buying a house, moving, relocating. It's a lot of things. It's a lot of things with the moon in Cancer. It could be that for you for this eclipse cycle, during this eclipse cycle, right? So it really depends on how it's hitting your chart, but we like the moon in Cancer. We like the moon in Cancer. Oh, look at I literally said flying to go meet your mom, or to go hang out with your family, whatever. And look what Kim said. Kim said that she is flying to meet her mother after 12 years. She's flying to see her mom after 12 years. And she's going to Japan, where she was born. Isn't the astrology just astrology? 12 years is also a Jupiter cycle. So what's interesting is the last time you saw your mom, Kim, was 12 years ago when Jupiter was in Cancer. And now you're going to go see her again. And guess what? I know Kim's chart, so Kim is a Cancer rising as well. Isn't it just so divinely aligned? Isn't that amazing? Isn't astrology amazing? Isn't it brilliant? Isn't it beautiful? Isn't it lovely? It's so aligned, I'm telling you. It's just the stars and the planets are really just calling the shots, you know? We're just living out our movie script down here that we've been given by the stars. Divine timing. So yeah, the moon in Cancer on, Sunday starting 6 p.m. and the moon being in Cancer, there's this beautiful healing energy that we're experiencing right now at family. And that's why we've been seeing, proposals, people getting married and people have, announcing their pregnancies and people getting pregnant. It's this beautiful healing, deeply healing energy that we have right now with Jupiter in Cancer. But not only that, we have this lunar eclipse in Pisces, right? North node in Pisces being disposited by, which is ruled, right? Pisces is ruled by Jupiter. So we have this lunar eclipse in Pisces cycle being disposited by Jupiter in Cancer. So this is beautiful because Jupiter is in an exalted state. Jupiter's in the fifth house away from the lunar eclipse. So, we're getting a lot of really good healing, expansive things happening during this eclipse cycle, but also specifically starting on Sunday, 6 p.m. Sunday when the moon goes into Cancer and it's kind of co-present with Jupiter. So I'm really excited for the beginning of next week, especially. I think the beginning of next week, like, Monday the 15th, Tuesday the 16th, I think it's going to be really good, really positive. I think there's a lot of good news, a lot of opportunity, I think, we're being encouraged to go a new direction, but healing, I think we're healing. There's a lot of emotional healing that we're doing, right? During this eclipse cycle. There's a Jupiter is in Cancer, right? North node, lunar eclipse in Pisces. It's like Saturn's back in Pisces. It's like there's a lot of grief, there's a lot of sadness, there's a lot of acceptance. There's a lot of like, you know, understanding that like we need to be compassionate in this space with this person, right? Like we just need to accept this is the way things are. This is how things have unfolded. This is how it was meant to be, right? And like I think we just need to be in this place of like acceptance with certain things. And stop, there's certain things that we just got to surrender, and I really do feel that. Like I really feel like this eclipse cycle wants us to surrender certain battles or certain things that are draining our energy or exhausting us or that are not really bringing us forward in any positive way, right? And things like that. So, what I will say though, before we wrap up today, is one of the big lessons this season for a lot of people is going to be boundaries and like energy leakages and kind of like being a little bit more intentional or being a little bit more firm with how we engage with things energetically and how much energy, how much time, how much money we give things. Because there's it's like Saturn wants to remind us during this eclipse cycle that we find when things are contained and secure, and when there's like rules, and when there's boundaries, and when there's structures, and when there's expectations, those things give us what? Security, stability. We know what to expect. We get safety when there's structure, when there's rules, when there's regulations, when there's boundaries, when there's, limitations, or even when we're aware of the energetic output and input, like that gives us safety and security, right? So we want that. Boundaries are good. Boundaries are wonderful, right? We don't want to overdo it though, to the point where we put up all these walls and we're just isolating ourselves, right? And just like so it's about the give and take. It's like you got to know when to lower the gate walls and you got to know when to let people cross the moat into the castle, Every now and then that's okay, And some of you got to build some walls, okay? You don't have no boundaries with anybody, with your habits, with your behaviors, with your parents, with your spouse, with your kids, with your money. Like is the lack of boundaries, the lack of control, the lack of awareness around, all right, this is how much I have to spend. This is how much I have time I have to give. This is how much energy, right? Like, is causing you to be exhausted, is causing you to be distracted, is causing you to be burnt out, is causing you to be avoidant, and it's also possibly pushing you to escape, which is why you keep getting triggered and defaulting to those bad habits and those bad behaviors because you're engaging with things that are draining you. And the only way that you can get energy and time back for yourself is when you are escaping and running away from all the things that are draining you and exhausting you, right? Like, so it's like we need boundaries, we need structure, we need to learn how to say no, we need to be aware of the give and the take in our relationships and with everything that we interact with so that we're not burning ourselves out, exhausting ourselves, getting walked over, things like that, right? That was a long-winded, that was like a long-winded thing right there. Let me breathe. Let me breathe. But yeah, you know what I mean? We got to be very aware. Pisces and Virgo, the axis of Pisces and Virgo is a mutable sign thing. I think Sag and Gemini are better at it, but I think Pisces and Virgo are so bad at it. They're terrible at boundaries. They're terrible at like Virgo's better, but Pisces is just a mess. Pisces has no boundaries with anything. Pisces is like yeah. So there's this lunar eclipse in Pisces. We need to put an extra amount of focus and attention and energy towards the need of structure, the need of boundaries, the need of limitations, and also kind of like giving ourselves permission to say no and not feel bad or guilty. I think that's one of the things that Pisces and Virgo have in common is this guilt complex. They feel guilty and ashamed of everything. Like they feel guilty for doing things for themselves. Like I was talking to one of my friends last night around how like I feel guilty leaving my dog at home. So I take him everywhere. And they were like, "Well, what happens when you need to like go somewhere for like 5 hours or 10 hours? Like what you need to be able to leave him at home. He has to be able to be by himself. You can't take him everywhere with you." And I'm like, "But I do, and I make it work." But it's like we feel guilty for things that we shouldn't feel guilty about, right? We need to be aware of this because I do think that we can allow our boundaries to be overstepped, or we could take on unnecessary bullshit for others, or we can even allow ourselves to be disrespected or tapped out or exhausted by a relationship or by an experience or by a job or whatever, right? Because we feel bad or guilty and we have a hard time saying no. No is a boundary. When you tell someone no, you are putting up a boundary, right? Like when someone is like, "Oh, do you want to go out with me?" and you tell them, "No, I'm not interested," what did you just do? You friend zone them. You just put up a wall and you just put up a boundary, right? The word no is such a simple way to put up a boundary with people. It's very simple, but a lot of us have a lot of time, a very hard time doing it because we feel bad or guilty for saying no, right? Pisces and Virgo is the axis of people pleasing. Pisces and Virgo loves to please. They want to say yes. Pisces and Virgo usually will look for a way to say yes. Pisces more so than Virgo. But, sometimes you have to say no. And that's just what it is. And that's what boundaries are about. Someone said, "I put my foot down on Thursday. I crashed out, but got my point across, so drained because I had to speak up." I love that for you. Yeah. Thursday, the moon was in what? Aquarius? Thursday? Yeah. I think the moon had just went into Aquarius. Thursday, Friday, and then the moon's in Pisces on Saturday. So yeah, the moon must have been in Aquarius. It's fun saying no. Yeah, I practice saying no to the people that I struggle with the most, like in my family. Like my mom. My mom is someone that's really hard for me to say no to. My mom is a Capricorn moon and a Virgo sun. And my mom is she's very like, she'll do anything to try to but I will practice telling her no just for the sake of it. And then I'll go back and say yes. But I just to practice. I tell my grandma no all the time too. She's another one that's very pushy. My grandma, my mom, they both have Capricorn moons and they're both incredibly pushy people. And they will not take no for an answer. So I practice with them all the time. Even if I'm gonna say yes, I'll say no at first. Just to practice. Same. My mom wants what she wants. I'm like, no, yeah, because my dad does everything, right? My dad does everything for my mom. So my dad's a yes man, and he's a Virgo moon. My dad is a Virgo moon and a Virgo Venus. So my dad is a yes man, and it's the funniest thing ever. He will never tell my mom no. But me, on the other hand, baby, we ain't got no Virgo placements over here. I'm a Pisces rising, but listen, I'm gonna tell her no. Oh, she's here! I didn't know my mom was here. Why didn't you guys tell me that my mom was in the chat? Oh Lord, look at me. I'm just outing my family business. You guys didn't tell me that my mom was here. Oh my. I'm like literally turning red. Look. I just outed myself. I let her into my plan. Look what you guys done did. Oh my, look, I'm spilling the beans. Listen, I'm letting out my secrets, okay? So, she was here. Someone said, "How are we supposed to know?" You said, "I know, I forgot that she was here." Oh my goodness. Someone said busted. You got caught. She's been here. Oh my gosh. No means yes. No means yes. It's so funny. We know who to look for next time. Yeah. That's hilarious. But yeah, there's a lot of there's some lessons that we need to be learning right now. I'm gonna echo this thing around boundaries as well with our next eclipse because our next eclipse is gonna be the sun and the moon together in Virgo, directly, both of them, opposite Saturn, you know? So there's going to be some hard stops. This eclipse is way more light. It's way more like fun. It's emotional, it's sensitive, but it's way more dreamy and it's way more expansive. But the next eclipse, the one that's going to be in Virgo, we have a solar eclipse in Virgo, it's opposite Saturn. That one's going to be a little rough. That one's going to be a little tense. It's going to be we'll talk about it when we get there. Okay. So enjoy this. I will say, enjoy this eclipse energy to the best of your ability. But also, keep in mind that there are people that are going through shit right now. So just because your like life is looking great and you're like not going through anything, there are people that are going through shit. So be mindful of that. I think sometimes you could be like, oh, we're riding our high horse, and then someone else is like, they're going through the trenches, and we can be a little, we can be a little ignorant, I would say, or a little reckless, a little careless, sometimes. You guys got to be aware that people are going through really tough times right now. Okay. The next eclipse is going to be on September 21st. We have our solar eclipse in Virgo. Yep, on the 21st. That one I think is going to be visible here in the States. I'm going to look it up really quick. So I think, okay, yeah, so we started talking about next week. We started talking about the moon in Cancer, the moon going to Cancer on Sunday, and then the moon in Cancer on Monday and Tuesday. And then that's where we're going to pick up. Oh, thank you for buying a badge. I appreciate that, my love. And that's where we're going to pick up on next week, okay, with the moon in Cancer. But yeah, I want to look up something really quick. I want to see if it's going to be visible here in the States. Is the solar eclipse visible in the States? Oh my gosh, is the upcoming solar eclipse? Let me see. Oh, it will be. Oh, in parts of Maine. Oh, in parts of Maine at 5:14 in the morning. 5:19. Oh, so maybe we won't be able to see it. Maybe the majority of us won't be able to see it. I'll do some more research on that. Oh, this is saying August 2nd of 2027. My bad. Um, I'll do some research for you guys. I'm gonna see if I could find that 2025, September 21st, 2025. Let's see. Oh, it's not visible over here. I'm sad. I thought it was. It's not gonna be visible over here, you guys. We're not gonna be able to see the solar eclipse on September 21st. It's gonna be visible if you are in Australia, if you're in New Zealand, if you're in like the southern part of the Pacific on the eastern side of the world. whatever that means, the eastern side of whatever that means, you'll be able to see it. Southern Australia, New Zealand, various parts of the Pacific Island. Yeah, you guys will be able to see the eclipse. Let's see what. Thank you for buying a badge. Thank you for buying a badge. I love you, appreciate you. Don't know that you had a birthday on eclipse. Um, have I? I don't know. I think I did have a birth. I think I had an eclipse on my birthday. I did back in 2022 and 2023, I think. Yeah, I think I had an eclipse on my birthday or near my birthday, 2022, 2023. And because it was the south side of the eclipse, no bueno. I lost my dog and my grandmother those years, 2022, 2023, when with the south node side of the eclipse hitting my Venus and hitting my sun Mercury. I lost two things. So when you're on the south side of the eclipse, if you're getting hit by the south side of the eclipse, it's going to be about like loss or endings or like rupture or things closing out. If you're on the north node side of the eclipse, like a lot of Tauruses at that time, because the north node was in Taurus at that time and the south node was in Scorpio, a lot of Tauruses were actually growing and expanding and they're like going in new directions and there was like good things happening for them. They're making more money, they're, going in new career directions and like, good things are happening. So if you're on the south side of the eclipse, right? If whatever's on the south side of the eclipse, that tends to be where there's more like tragedy or more loss or more difficult things, where the north node side of the eclipse is where things are good. So someone asked, how do you know if you're on the south side of the eclipse when you're looking at your chart? Well, if you have Virgo placements right now, the south node is going through Virgo, right? So when the eclipse happens and if you have placements in Virgo, you're on the south side of it, right? So that's if you're Virgo rising, if you have Virgo moon, Virgo sun, Virgo Mercury, then you're on the south side of the eclipse. If you are on the north node side of the eclipse, where you have Pisces placements, then you're experiencing expansion and growth and opportunity and things like that. But, most evidently and most clearly, people that get hit by the south node exactly like where the south node is directly going over a planet during the eclipse over like so if anybody has anything around 18 degrees of Virgo or Pisces, but if anybody has anything around 18 degrees of Virgo for this eclipse, right? They are going to be getting hit. That planet is getting hit by the south node, and there's going to be some kind of emptying, some kind of release, some kind of closure, some kind of taken away, some kind of, I don't want to say, I was going to say deprivation, but deprivation is actually a Saturn word. It's more of like a wasting away or of like a taking away or of a loss type of thing. South node will be going through my Venus, and north node will be going through my Jupiter Pisces. See, that's very interesting because then when you have a planet when you have planets in both, you may see growth and expansion in one side of your life, and you may see ending and release in one side of your life. But that could be for everybody in their Virgo Pisces house, right? Like for these eclipses, your Pisces house is going to be more than likely expanding or growing or like going in a new direction. There's like a positivity or a success there, or there's like energy that you're being pulled in that direction, right? There's like that's where things are growing. Or the south node is in Virgo, in your Virgo house, that's where things are being depleted or things are exiting, or that's where there's like a weakening of energy or a depletion of energy, or even some kind of closure, some kind of loss, something like that. So, and also if you have Gemini, Virgo placements being squared by the nodes, it's give or take. I don't know, it could be good, it could be bad. It's a little bit of a crapshoot. Yeah, it could be like yeah. So someone asked, is it a take? So I'm assuming this is about the south node. You're asking about the south node, but someone's asking, is it a taking away or could it be a release? Like we willing to let go? Yes, it could be like a willingness to let go, right? So it could be out of a conscious choice, or it could be because of a fated outcome, like where your choice is taken away from you. And that's one of the big things that happens during the eclipses is experiences where our agency or our choices are taken away from us in some type of way, right? But the universe may encourage you, may limit your options to kind of you know, I don't want to say force, but encourage you to make a certain choice or make a certain decision as well. But that's one of the things that we get with the eclipses is fated, destined outcomes. And what makes something fated or destined is the fact that you don't have agency over it many times, right? That's an element of fate and destiny. Like when we're talking about fate and destiny, we're talking about things that are kind of written or scripted, where it's an event or an experience that isn't rooted in our agency. It's rooted in like this, it's part of your script, it's part of your timeline. It's like you're gonna go through this, right? And that's how a lot of things are. That's how a lot of things are in our life. Like there's a lot of things that it's like no matter what you do, you are going to go through this thing, you're going to experience this thing. So I'm open to what it is. It's a 9 year. Nine is my life path. And also we're in a 9 month, by the way. I don't know if you guys knew that, but Virgo is a 9 month. This month is a 9 month. We're in a 9 year. I'm a life path nine as well. Yeah, we're in a 9 year. It's a 9 month. You're turning 39. Am I turning 39 this year too? How old am I gonna be? Am I gonna be 39? I was born 87. Oh my God. I think I am turning 39 this year in like next month. Can you believe it? My birthday is already next month. What are you guys gonna give me for my birthday? I want a Tesla. No, I'm kidding. Ew! I would never want that. I want a what do I want? What do I want you guys to give me? What do I want? I don't really want much, actually. I'll be 38. I'll be 38. Okay. I don't even know how old I am. It's so bad. Very Pisces rising things. I'm like, my Mercury, listen, no, I don't have a strong Mercury, so. She said, I feel like 38 is the year we start forgetting who we are. I'm in 87 and we are 38. Okay, I'll be 38. Okay, I'm not turning 39 yet. Oh, the idea of me approaching my 40s was stressing me out. Yeah, getting my age wrong. I'm 87 and confused as well. Yeah, it could be a little confusing. That's so funny. But but yeah, my loves, we're here. It's been 2 hours. Can you believe it? It's already 1:55. Time flew by today. I think we're done. Oh, I didn't even drink my tea. I love you all so much. Have a beautiful, blessed day. Take care of yourselves. Be well. I'm gonna go get a bite to eat. It's 2 o'clock over here in Portland. I'm kind of hungry. Everybody that bought a badge, thank you so much for buying a badge. I appreciate you guys. This will be posted to YouTube. I'm gonna like post it as soon as it's done like processing and stuff. But yeah, you guys have a beautiful, blessed day. Hope you guys enjoy this. Take care of yourselves. Be well. I'll see you Wednesday, my love. I guess you booked a reading, I'm guessing, right? Um, Otherwise, I don't know why else I'd be seeing you on Wednesday. I'm just kidding. I love you guys. Take care. Thank you for buying a badge. I appreciate you. Oh, Raymond, you just joined. I'm just wrapping up. It's okay. I'm gonna go and post it right now. So if you guys want to go back and rewatch it, you can. Okay. It's eclipse season. Okay, let's wrap up real quick. It's eclipse season. Slow down. Stay grounded. Everything is feeling maybe a little bit more extreme, a little bit more amplified. Everything's feeling maybe a little bit more hectic, or maybe feeling a little bit more emotional than usual. All right. Just because things are a little bit more intense or if things feel a little bit more chaotic doesn't mean you gotta like, make any huge dramatic decisions. Just, it's eclipse season. Just surrender, go with the flow, let this energy kind of like pass, and then we'll see where we end up, 4 weeks from now when we're out of eclipse season. We'll see where we all get spat out out of the eclipses. All right. But I love you guys. Take care of yourselves. Be well. See you around. Okay. Bye.